Wow. What do you guys think of that dev talk there? They didn't really say it. They didn't really say it outright, but they f***ed up with this patch, right? They the way they kind of word it and stuff, and they said how they should make changes and adjustments, and they'll not be as sizable, and how they're going to be doing some sort change and the barb changes soon. They basically rushed this patch out for whatever reason. I have no idea why. It seemed like they rushed it out, but it wasn't like the complete package on what they were trying to do. And they basically just said over time they're going to add more stuff and kind of just work with it, right? Like, why don't we get like the Nightmare Dungeon density buff with this patch, right? Like, the thing is, you have to accompany negatives with positives. You just can't like beat down some builds. Wow. You can't just beat down some builds or some aspects of the game and not have those positives. Time. Yeah, players don't care about time. That's a dev problem. If you're not correctly appropriating time and you're not meeting your time constraints, that's a management issue. It's not a player issue. Like you're like trying to divert the blame on players. Yeah, like they should manage your time better and appropriate resources in a better manner. So you have a complete patch that feels good and not one that feels bad and discourages people from playing the game. Coming from someone in the industry, they definitely seem like they're pumping out as many fixes they could without thinking about the fixes that were actually going out. These were actually reactionary buffs to backlash, not planned ones. Like, and they even like highlighted on density, right? Like they talked about density, and then that hasn't been something that they've been focusing on in the game, right? Like with like everything that they've done, they even ninja nerfed Iron Hold, right? Like, so it's not like they're like, yes, we need to add more density. They literally went into certain dungeons into Diablo 4 for this patch, removed elite density, didn't document it, and then on this stream, right, they're saying density is important. And I think it's just because of the backlash, right? It was like an eye opener for them. They're like, yeah, so maybe our philosophy of having this tactical, visceral combat against two mobs at a time is not the best thing, and we should add some more density. Yeah, they said the Nightmare Dungeon density patch will be today. But I guess there's a lot of changes coming in 1.11. That's a few weeks away for Barbarian and Wizards. That's pretty far in terms of a brand new season for an ARPG, because most of the time people don't play that long, right? So that might be a little bit too late for a lot of people, right? Like the fact that these changes, the iterations for those classes will be a couple weeks away. A lot of people don't play seasonal resets for that long, right? What else was said there? They're gonna give us one more stash tab. Bro, we need more than one stash tab, realistically. They should at least straight up double the amount of stash tabs that we had. Like the whole one more stash tab thing, I don't know. Like why only one? Like if they want to encourage us to play the game more, they want us to play more characters, more builds, they need to give us more stash space. Because stash space is one of the major limiting factors on how much you're going to play. Why do you even need that many stash tabs? For multiple builds for each character, for playing multiple classes, for needing aspects, Malignant Hearts, the season mechanic they just added. You need Malignant Hearts too for trading and making gold outside of just being drop dependent, right? It is an ARPG MMO. There is a social aspect, even though there isn't like robust social features, but there is trading in the game, and it is a source of gold earnings. So if you find good stuff, you're going to put it in your stash, store it until you find an appropriate buyer. But it's hard to find buyers because you kind of just post an item on Discord, and then it's hard to filter through Discord or even like D2JSP, like a forum, to find these good stuff. So I don't know, that just goes in a whole nother thing. They should implement some assistance to trading in the game so you're not using third-party applications so much. Right, like I actually personally hate this. This is one of my gripes with PoE, and why I always play Hardcore Soul Selfbound and Path of Exile is I hate interacting with the auction house, messaging 20, 30, 40 people, and the item's always sold. right? And then you're messaging people, the AFK, it's sold, it's AFK, it's sold, and stuff like that. So I don't get why they just don't have some bizarre auction house system to help facilitate trading instead of being dependent on Discord and keeping players in the game. I think the quality of life is just there. Just don't allow players to sell items for real money.
Wow.
So yeah, they're making changes, and a lot of the changes are coming down the line, right? Season 2, 1.11 in a few weeks. We're getting Nightmare Dungeon density changes today, I believe, right? And they're also going to be scaling down Nightmare Dungeon. So basically what they said, Nightmare Dungeon 100, the difficulty will now be around where Nightmare Dungeon 70 was before. Outside of that, though, they didn't really say too much, I don't think. Or it felt like, to me, it didn't feel like they said too much. Or like their principles that they're working on, right? Like before they nerf stuff, they want to provide compelling alternatives. I thought this would have been like a pretty much a given, right? Like you don't want to reduce people's fun without having an alternative source of fun. The meta change will occur at predictable times, like the start of a season. That makes sense, right? Like that's what season is supposed to be. It's supposed to be meta shakeups. It's supposed to be adding additional ways to play the game, you know, like discovering new content, challenging yourself, doing new bosses and stuff like that. Obviously game breaking bugs and stuff like that. That's pretty much it. They didn't really say that much more. But I guess they're going to make more changes and stuff. I was hoping that they were going to talk about the Malignant Tunnels and the Malignant Gems and everything else like that. Leaderboards in Season 3. Oh, we already knew about that, though. That's not like a new thing. This seemed more like a PR move, but nothing really addressed. Well, they didn't really have answers, right? They basically said these things will change at some point in time, just not right away, and it's a work in progress. So, yeah, they just said, oh, the work in progress. But they don't really have like a bunch of huge immediate changes. And we are going to get some patches, right? We get 1.11, we get the patch today and stuff like that. Console, they're really boning us. So with the cert processes, well, that's kind of how it is when you have a multi-platform game. When you have a multi-platform game, that's just what you deal with, right? You have to deal with all the cert stuff. You don't get why everyone is so on them, pewing nerfs to the bone in each league. Well, this was an issue where they didn't balance their game good from the get-go. A game that just entered the first season shouldn't need a bunch of reductions in character power already. That's problematic, right? The fact that your game just launched and you already have power creep where you have to massively nerf affixes, that's just poor Q&A. Path of Exile, they did their stat squish after like 8 years, not after it like originally came out. So do you think they intentionally overtuned the launch of the game to get people's hooked, then reduce power? Well, people do like big numbers, but I don't think they intentionally had to overtune, then had a reduction. I think they saw a problem, they decided they want to address it. Other than that, I don't think it was an intentional thing. Yeah, I guess we'll see how the new patches today. They have the new patch coming out. We'll see how the new patch feels. We'll see how the new density and dungeons feel. Well, I guess we'll see how that new like scaling feels and stuff like that. But it makes no sense to me that this was delayed right after the season start. Like it has to be like poor time management, right? That's the only thing that it can equate to, right? Wow. Them literally a couple days after the patch and stuff and the dungeon changes, they're making adjustments like this. Yeah, they got review bombed with negative reviews, lots of negative press, lots of negative feedback. They probably had some meetings, and those weren't happy meetings, right? I like that they are going to be doing the dev talk streams more frequently. They said that before like major patches, they're going to be doing the dev streams more often, and they're going to be providing patch notes ahead of time. That was like one good announcement from it. Yeah, they were basically up there, right? And then chat and like everyone watching and upset where they were basically throwing the balls at them to dunk them into the tank, right? They were essentially taking a bulk of the negative feedback as like the figureheads. Yeah, I think they should have, what they're saying, I think they should have just never released the balance changes that they did. I think they were regretful of it too, right? The nerfs were fine. The problem is, the nerfs were fine. What do you mean the nerfs were fine? The nerfs literally did nothing. Like the biggest outliers for overperforming builds, they're still overperforming. Underperforming classes are underperforming even more. You're still stacking vulnerability damage, crit damage in the same modifiers. They didn't fix how affix scaling works or their affix damage calculations work. What do you mean the nerfs were good? They just slowed down the gameplay. They made builds that were cooldown dependent pour even more cooldown dependent. You're not getting some random affix instead of cooldown reduction. The nerfs literally did nothing. It didn't create a solution to the problem. It just reduced your clear speed, it reduced your movement speed, it reduced your efficiency, and reduced your damage output. It didn't actually fix any problems. It just slowed stuff down. Literally didn't fix anything with item diversity, itemization on gear at all. It literally fixed nothing. I don't get why you guys are saying it. What did it fix? It didn't fix nothing. Yeah, I'm just surprised they didn't revert the patch until it came up with a better solution. Right, because they said 1.11. They honestly, that's what I think they should have done. I think they should have just like reverted until 1.11 or whenever they had like more adjustments to their problems. In addition to that, the season mechanic itself is underwhelming. I've been very vocal about this. I've been very disappointed. I've been doing a lot of the malignant tunnels. They sat on there in the dev stream today and they talked about the importance of density, the importance of combat in ARPG. I've been running these malignant tunnels and stuff like crazy, just resetting them, right? But they put the reset button back in the game and you just reset them, right? And just run them over and over again. These things are terrible. There's literally no density in the malignant tunnels. Like, not a lot of leech, you don't get a lot of loot, you don't get a lot of experience. You do get some malignant hearts. Like, the spawn rates of the malignant monsters and the interaction within dungeons themselves when you're doing Nightmare Dungeon, normal dungeon, abysmal. Also, why did it take so long for the monsters to spawn? It should take 1 second. You shouldn't have to wait there for 5 seconds. And more stuff should pop out of the malignant hearts when you click them within a dungeon, right? Like, everything that they're doing is they're slowing down gameplay and it doesn't have density. And then they're saying the exact opposite thing. But what they're doing and their actions aren't represented by what they're saying on the dev stream at all, right? I feel like a lot of things that they're saying is because of community feedback, right? Because, like, they talked about the importance of density, but this first season did not showcase that. They made undense, uninspiring season mechanic. Like, they can make this stuff so much better, right? First off, why do I have to walk my happy ass to this malignant tunnel so far away, right? Like, every single tunnel, look at the travel distance. Okay, this one over here, look at this travel distance. Look at this travel distance. This one, not too bad. That one's actually pretty close. Like, this one here, pretty close, right? You got some, like, Legion events, but you have, like, all this travel distance for a lot of this malignant stuff. Right, like, this one over here, you got some travel distance and whatnot. And the malignant tunnels are not better than Nightmare Dungeons. They don't give you glyph levels, right? Or anything else like that. They give you less experience and stuff. So that makes no sense. Why are they making the season mechanics so uninspiring? In addition to that, the malignant hearts, some classes got some really good ones. So, like, I've seen necromancers. Necromancers are freaking dope. But then a lot of other classes, their malignant hearts leave so much to be desired. Like, they don't really change the way you play. They don't feel like they add, like, a lot of power. A lot of the early stuff doesn't feel good. So, yeah, kind of disappointed with some of the malignant hearts. In addition to that, like, for Druid, the new aspect, it seems like it scaled off base damage for only like one of the landslide hits, so it does no damage. So, like, the only brand new aspect they put in literally does no damage. And full companion builds. Yeah, players like full companion builds. They like those passive things where they just have an army of minions and stuff to attack. How it started? How they going? What the heck is this meme? Honestly, they do look a lot more refreshed before the game actually launched. Right, they do look a lot more refreshed than their original pictures. Anyways, I guess we'll see like what the patch does today, what the dungeon changes coming up. We'll test that stuff and to see how it goes and whatnot.